Hello, everyone. We were having some technical issues, but Kimberly is flexible and we adapted and overcame. So, Kimberly, we're so excited that you're here with us today. And we're going to be talking about using LinkedIn to kind of speed up your job search. And as you know, we come here every Tuesday. We talk about the now, the new, and the next in careers. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use LinkedIn to do some research. We're not going to talk too much about that. We'll talk a little bit. Then we're going to talk about using it to do networking because that is Kimberly's area of expertise. She literally wrote a book on it. So we'll talk about how we use LinkedIn to network. And then we'll talk a little bit about how you build your visibility using LinkedIn. But again, I find that that's where a lot of career services providers start. How do I use LinkedIn to get found? But we really want our clients to be more proactive than that. So that's what we're going to talk about: research, networking, and then we'll talk a little bit about visibility. So, Kimberly, you've been teaching people how to use LinkedIn, how to job search for a while. You're also a recruiter help people recruit as well. And so, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing with LinkedIn.
Well, I think LinkedIn is a wonderful tool that can be used if we understand the power of LinkedIn. So I know that you and I have talked a lot about when you meet somebody on LinkedIn, it's like you're meeting them in person. So how would you talk to them in person? And I like our job seekers to be very, very proactive. This is a fabulous tool for research to find what you want to find, those great opportunities. So I want our job seekers to actually put themselves in a position of posture when they're using LinkedIn. When they're approaching people, so everything, people often will find you on social media before they meet you in person. So when they find you, how are you coming across? So from the way that you set up your profile, your picture, first of all, please have a picture, because as a recruiter or former recruiter, if you don't have a picture, I'm just going to go right on by. I'm not even going to open up your profile, try to talk to you. If you try to reach out to me and have a conversation, I'm not even going to bother because you don't have a picture. So that sends me a message right there. So the goal is, how do you become found and how do you get on somebody's radar, like the hiring manager or the recruiter's radar? So you've got to distinguish yourself. So when you're reaching out to people, one of the things that I look at when somebody reaches out to me is, in addition to the picture, do you look like you're likable? What are the words right underneath your headline? Are you trying to sell me something, or am I going to be able to tell what it is that you do? So that's prime real estate. So that's my initial impression when somebody contacts me through LinkedIn. What's the picture look like? What are the words that they're choosing to use? And so I want our job seekers, again, to, you know, think about it in terms of, if I was a hiring manager hiring you for this particular position, or if I was a recruiter recruiting for that position, what words would really resonate, would make me want to open up your profile and read further? So when you're networking, though, it's all about your presence. It's all about how you reach out to people. And please, please, if you're trying to connect with me, send a reason why, send a message versus just the standard LinkedIn message, because that tells me you didn't put a lot of effort into it. But I'll stop there. I could go on and on, but Marie, do you have any other, want to chime in or have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So we had someone ask about the AI pictures. So if you're choosing a headshot, you're using an AI tool. And what do we think about that? I'll let you go first and then I'll say some things as well.
Well, does that AI picture really look like you? Does it seem authentic? When I look at a picture, am I wondering, okay, is this the real person, or is this AI generated? So it depends on the AI generation. And then if I then, we do, let's say, have a interact and want to have a conversation later, when you show up in a in-person, more live uh, setting, am I going to recognize you? Right? Because again, it's still going to be about authenticity. So regardless, the picture needs to show that it needs to be a likable picture, regardless whether it's AI generated or not, but it needs to look authentic, is my take on it.
I agree. Yeah. And some of them have gotten really good. If it looks funky, if there's that little air around it that just doesn't look right, I probably wouldn't use it. But everybody's going to have their own level of comfort with that, and that's fine. Like you said, as long as it looks authentic and it doesn't have that weird kind of AI fakiness to it, it'll be fine. And they've gotten a lot better to where
They
that
have.
maybe, you might be able to get a picture from AI, which is nice because then you've got the professional background. You may even have your professional clothes on. So a tip on that from Denise Bittler, who does a lot of the tests and stuff with our AI tools. She said if you submit pictures, make sure you submit them in a few different colors of shirts because it will pick up on that. And like if you submit all of your pictures to the AI system with a blue shirt on, you'll only get blue shirts back. So that might be a good thing if you want to pick your brand color. And otherwise, you might want to submit a variety so that then when you get these suggestions back from AI, you've got a variety to choose from. But not everybody has the money to go and get professional headshots. We get that. And so it'd be fine to use some of those AI tools. And I'll find the link that Denise shared because she shared which ones she thought were the best right now, at least. And I'll share that link in the chat in a little bit so that if you are doing that, you can use the best ones. Although, you just want to think about, am I getting great pictures from this? Is it authentic? And if not, what might my other options be?
And Marie, they can test it out with it's a great tool called photofeeler.com, where they can upload their picture and people will vote on it and tell them whether it looks like you're confident. So if it looks like you're professional, so they can kind of get an idea of what other people think of their picture if they want to.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so I look approachable. Let's talk about LinkedIn as a networking platform. And I've been using the little analogy of it being a networking event. So, what do we do to start that conversation? And how can we maybe use that analogy to really use the platform instead of just waiting for someone to find our profile?
Yes. So one of the things I think people should do, first of all, once you identify the target companies, that makes it so much easier, right? Because then you can research the company. And so you can be intelligent when you actually do make contact with someone. But also when you're going to reach out to somebody, please, our clients really need to be researching them on LinkedIn, read their LinkedIn profile so that when they talk to them, they can talk to them about things that would resonate with them. I have people reach out to me all the time and they'll, want to say, really nice things. But then their question, I'm sitting there going, you didn't even look at my profile, right? You said that I was very interesting or whatever, but they didn't even bother to read it. So make sure that our clients are doing their due diligence to read the LinkedIn profile. And then so when they can reach out to them, maybe they went to the same college or have something in common that when they then reach out to them, they can draw that commonality out because when you find things in common with people, it creates likability. So they could throw that into the conversation that they're trying to engage with someone else on about the company or about the particular role. They can put that personal touch.
Right. Yeah. And if that person is posting or commenting on other people's posts or on the company posts, it gives you that opportunity to have a conversation first. So then you aren't even reaching out cold, which is ideal. And, you don't want to just, I call it sitting on the sidelines at a networking event. Like if you go to a networking event, but you just stand there with your drink all night and don't talk to anyone, you didn't really network, right? But I think a lot of people go on LinkedIn, they maybe hit the like button a couple of times. They're like, cool, I networked. Why isn't LinkedIn working for me? And it just doesn't work that way, right?
Right. Networking is all about building a relationship, an authentic relationship. And I know when I post something, if somebody engages with something I posted, that said to me that person was paying attention, that I mattered. So they're in a way they're giving something back to me. And if I notice that somebody's engaging with my posts on a regular basis, then if they reach out to me and want to connect, that's not going to be weird. I'm going to go, oh, this is somebody that really pays attention and cares about what my thoughts are. And so that's creating that connection already. So if they ask me to connect with them or they reach out to me and want to ask a question about something, I'm more likely to engage with them and not look at it as though somebody's trying to get something from me.
Yeah. Well, I love your point about reading their profile, even if they're not posting, reading their profile, finding those commonalities. And you also look up people outside of LinkedIn to see if you can find commonalities, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, So I'll connect with people on LinkedIn, but like Facebook, if I'm trying to really build a relationship, I'm gonna go see, can I find them on Facebook? Now, I'm not gonna ask them to friend me on Facebook, but I am gonna look at their Facebook posts and see what they're talking about, because that's gonna give me additional clues. So people, when they're putting things on Facebook, it's a lot more personal. So I get insight into their family, I get insight into their hobbies. So I'm definitely gonna check them out on Facebook, see if they're there. I'm gonna look on Instagram also, because there are a lot of professionals on Instagram. There are a lot of hiring managers in the C-suite on Instagram, and people are showing a different side of them sometimes on Instagram. So I'm going to look at all the sites though. I might even, Marie, I know you and I have talked about doing an AI search, right? What other, this is this person's LinkedIn profile. What other platforms are they on, right? So then that might uncover some things like things that we hadn't thought of perhaps. And then I'm going to get a really good picture of who that person is, so that when I'm having a conversation, I can weave things into my comments that might seem like I just happen to have this in common with them. You want to still be authentic with it, of course, but I'm going to be intentional about weaving some of those things in, because again, that creates that likability, that know, like, trust. And it's a natural launch point then to have a conversation. And before I forget, I'm also going to see if they went to a school that I went to, right? That's a connection. I'm going to have a different vantage point of when I start that conversation with them along those lines.
Right. And it could be interests. I had a fun conversation with one of our colleagues about what we were talking about. It was Halloween. So we were talking about, do you like the candy corns or not? People are very passionate about whether or not they like candy corns. And she and I got in a conversation about that. And it kind of created a different relationship than we'd had before. And I think sometimes we forget that those little conversations about little things, it doesn't have to be, deep, dark secrets about people, but just little things. Although some people would consider liking candy corn a deep, dark secret, but sometimes those more fun conversations can actually lead to a better relationship. One of our other colleagues posted that he plays fantasy football. And so now we've had this like fantasy football conversation going on. And sometimes it can feel like that's a waste of time to get into those conversations, especially if you tend to be a more straight shooter, strategic type of networker. But when you let yourself get into some of those conversations, which may not happen on LinkedIn, right? That conversation might be happening on a Facebook or an Instagram. Then you deepen that relationship in a still professional and networking kind of way, but you have that door open to have more in common. So I love that tip.
Yeah, you become more of a person, because, as a recruiter, when I was recruiting, I had thousands of people to choose from when I was looking for a particular role. So how are our clients going to stand out from the next person? It was really interesting. I had a recruiter tell me that one particular time when they were, much further along in the hiring process, the distinction between two top candidates was one individual liked pets, and the hiring manager happened to be an animal lover. And that was the difference. That's why that person got the job, because they had equal skills. So it was the likability piece, and it's the human element. Do I want to work with you? So it's all
Right.
important.
Yeah. And it just is finding those opportunities to authentically engage, right? I'm looking for opportunities to have these conversations that are actually interesting to me. And I like football too. And that gives you not just the connection, but it also gives you a little bit motivation, a little bit of fun. Like when you do go to a networking event and you're nervous, right? And then you find that person that you kind of hit it off with, like, oh, and all of the not all, but some of the fear and trepidation goes away because you've found some ways to have conversation. And that's what we're just looking to create on LinkedIn. And so you've talked about that people can find folks based on looking at target companies, and then they start to engage. How do they know when it might be appropriate to reach out via messaging?
So if they've built a relationship, right? I mean, if they're seeing what they're posting and they're commenting on it and they've done it a couple of times, it would not be weird because LinkedIn is a networking platform. That's what it's there for. So people who are on LinkedIn are expecting to network. So if I've engaged with somebody's post a couple of times and we're having a lot of things in common, it would not be, weird for the other person if I reached out and say, "Hey, I would love to connect with you and I'd like to talk to you about such and such." Right? So just be upfront with why you want to talk to somebody, why you want to connect with them, and you will be amazed at how many people are willing to have that conversation. As long as you're asking for information and advice, not necessarily saying, "I need you to find me a job." Right? Or if you notice that somebody is a hiring manager, you could say, "I noticed that there was this posting. I'm interested in this particular, is there any information or some resource or, so they've already, you know, kind of indicate you've already found out that they are a hiring manager, maybe not for that particular role in a company, but maybe there's still somebody you want to engage with about the company. So again, it's all based on that initial, those conversations that you're having, that you're warming up, and you'll get a feel for the types of questions that you could ask.
Yeah, yeah. The conversation will be a little bit more natural. It's so funny. As you were talking, I was like, "Ooh, that's the original AI, advice and information." Use AI to help you with your outreach, but not the AI you're thinking. Use advice and information as the reason that you're reaching out. I love that. Okay, so Karen is saying that there's an expectation to be active on multiple platforms, or are they just searches to find information? Where do you go on this one?
So I think as long as you're active on the platforms where the people where's your target audience? That's the key. Where's your target audience showing up? And that's where you want to show up. So you don't have to be on a gazillion platforms. If you're if you're active on one platform and that's where your target audience is, then that may be good enough. But your goal is to expand your digital footprint. So if somebody's willing to be on more than one platform, maybe two different platforms. Sometimes you might be on a platform may not be very active posting, but you're using it for research. So I tell folks like on Twitter, if you have a Twitter account, I don't post on Twitter. It would take too much to build the following, and it's not my goal. It's not where my target audience is necessarily. But if I'm looking for a particular company, I can use the list function so that I can do research for what I want to find out. But it's not that I necessarily have to post on Twitter. So that's
Well,
how
and I
I
think
would.
this is one of the challenges for our clients is that we go to LinkedIn, our audience is on LinkedIn, but their audience might not be. So we might be trying to have them network in an empty room. So for instance, if I'm working with an engineer, there's not a whole bunch of other engineers or engineering managers that are active on LinkedIn. It's not where they go on a regular basis. It's where they go when they need a job, perhaps, but it's really not where they hang out. So if I'm telling my client as an engineer to go to LinkedIn to network, they're going to an empty room and they're getting frustrated because there's no one there to interact with. Now, sometimes there are salespeople or something. It's going to depend on their industry, but I'm going to help them find where are their people hanging out. Is it an industry group? Is it a Slack channel? Is it actually there's a Facebook group? And I know you've heard that story, but where is it that their audience is actually hanging out? Now, they might still use LinkedIn. They might still find some conversations to have on LinkedIn with companies or sales people for the companies they're interested in, et cetera. But they might not find the types of people they'd really like to network with there. And that's why it's so important that we help people figure out where are your people, because we're using it for networking, and you can't network if nobody's there on a regular basis. And on LinkedIn, you've got 1 billion profiles, but less than a third of those are active every month. Yeah, where you go to Instagram, Facebook, and they've got about 800 million people, so almost as many profiles as LinkedIn has that are active every single day. And that's why some of those platforms, even though it doesn't seem like it would be a great place, they actually are, because the people who are there are active there every day. So figuring out where, I recommend people find 2 platforms, because we do like them to use LinkedIn, but we've got to acknowledge that not everybody's audience is active on LinkedIn. And we aren't talking about networking just with recruiters, who of course are on LinkedIn. We're talking about networking with your hiring managers, networking with your peers, networking with people who could be a referral source for you. And if those people aren't on LinkedIn, you can't network with them there.
And that's a really great point because it doesn't necessarily have to be a hiring manager, right? Once you find the platforms, if you're networking with people, people know other people. And if they're in the industry or somewhere in the company, you can start at any level and work your way to where you need to go. So I think that's a really great point, Marie.
So Anne is asking, where would we put the fact that we're an animal lover on our resume or LinkedIn? We were talking about, you have these conversations. Should I go put that I'm a candy corn lover on my profile somewhere?
Right. So again, it gets back to how are you setting yourself apart from the next person? So you can tell me your accomplishments, but if all you're telling me is your accomplishments, then you become flat and you're uninteresting. But if you can weave in, tell me your accomplishments, but tell it to me in a story, I'm more likely to read more because your goal is to get them to continue to read. Marie, what people always ask me, how much is too much? I said, it's not too much if people will keep reading. So as long as you're telling me what's interesting to me, right, and tell it to me in a story, I'll continue to read. So I think it's really fun when people say, oh, I took this trip here, or I'm a fanatic about coffee or whatever. Those are touch points that makes our clients more human and makes me then go, oh, I might want to have coffee with this person, or, oh, I've never been to Dubai. I'd like to know more about Dubai. So maybe I have a conversation with them just because of that. So they can weave it in. They can put it in their about section. They can put it in each of their job sections as they're talking about their passion for the role and list an accomplishment. And they can say, oh, and by the way, this is something I found out or something I experienced in that particular role. And so that would just be really interesting and make me want to perhaps reach out to them just because of that.
Yeah. And I think the end of your about section, I'm not as hot as putting on your resume because your resume has such little real estate than a LinkedIn profile. But the end of your about section, I usually have a call to action that says, reach out to me if you're this, or reach out to me, or I think at the end of mine, it used to, I don't know if it still does, but it said that, I'm a sports fan, I'm a Rotarian, and those types of things, so that people could connect. And if you are interested or you're passionate about that too, reach out and let's connect. And I think that connection point that is more human, in addition to being professional, sounds more inviting, but it also keeps it from sounding like, hey, I need a job, contact me, because you're networking, you're not, and you always say that position of power, that, that posture of power, or, that you don't need, you're not begging, you're networking and you're trying to connect. And here's the type of people I want to connect with.
Well, and you remind me as we talk about that, so that green open to work that I see some people use. So I would be very careful with using that. I think if someone is a junior level person, they're saying they're open to work, that's one thing, because I have heard some recruiters say that they like to see that because it makes their job easier, right? But if I'm looking for somebody in a mid-level role or more senior role, it doesn't matter to me whether you say you're open to work, because if you have the skills that I'm looking for, I'm going to reach out to you anyway. So when they put that open to work, to me, it comes across a little bit more, I need a job, versus you really want to talk to me because I have the skills that you need. And like I said, if you have the skills that I was looking for when I was recruiting, I'm going to reach out to you anyway, because I know everybody is in between jobs, right? People are passive job seekers. Every 3 to 4 years, if the right job, if the right opportunity comes along, they're willing to leave one company and go to the next. That was just the way I looked at it.
Right. And people have actually stopped using the hashtag, which is really sad, because a job seeker should be able to use that hashtag to get found. But what's happened is that the scammers and spammers have started to figure out how to automate comments and messages based on that hashtag. So you'll notice now, like I accidentally used the hashtag hiring the other day, and right away I got a dozen spammy, scammy comments that said, contact me, reach out to me, because people have figured out they can get your personal information. So it's one of the other reasons that, unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend using like the open to work hashtag anymore, is because it opens you up to a bunch of scam job posters that aren't real job posters that are going to comment on your post and say, reach out to me, which is unfortunate, but it's not worth it, because like you said, some recruiters search for it, some don't. And if I'm going to attract a bunch of scammers, I don't want to do that because I'm using the hashtag. But you can still use the big green banner if you want to. I don't recommend using the green banner for more than a couple of months based on unemployment bias research. But you can, on the inside of your profile, be open to work to recruiters only. And that's a really great feature. Only gets the recruiters who are using a paid account, but it's better than nothing.
Right. I agree with you 100%. Do it on the back end to let those particular recruiters know. But the other thing about that open to work, like you said, if I see somebody has an open to work and I come back 4 months, 5 months later, and they're still open to work, then I'm starting to wonder, why haven't you found a job? Right. And we know that sometimes it takes a while to get that job, but it also then might take money off the table if I do reach out to you, right? Again, I know that you've been looking for a job for a while. So now that we get to the negotiation table, you might take less money because you've been open to work for a while. So I just think people should be careful with that.
Well, and I kind of think about it like a website, right? Every business has a website, and you have a website because you want to do business, right? So you have a LinkedIn profile because you want to network. And like you said, most people are looking for work. So you don't necessarily need that as part of your branding unless you want it to be part of your branding. And I see some of our colleagues and business owners that use the open to work to show that they're open to contract work. But to me, it just doesn't, like, that's not what I think about when I see open to work. So if I see you as a business owner having that, I think you're looking for a job, not that you're looking to get business on the platform. So, everybody's going to have their own perception of that. And I would say there's no right or wrong answer. You just want to think about it. And it's not a strategy for getting visibility really, or for getting more reach outs. So it's one of the things I see LinkedIn say, oh, you get more reach outs if you use this. And I think, I'd be careful with that because it's still just like having a website. And yeah, it might boost your SEO a little bit, but it's not going to do the job for you. And I think some of our job seekers think, oh, I turned on open to work. Now I can just sit back and wait for someone to contact me.
Well, that's what I was thinking of too. That's really passive. I really want our job seekers to be very proactive. So they're reaching out to the people they want to get in contact with, reaching out for the opportunities that they're interested in. And that green sign doesn't do that for them. So.
Right. Yeah. All right. So if you had two things that you would say people could do on LinkedIn to increase their chances, what should they go do and take action today?
Well, I would say comment on people's posts if they're not afraid, if they're hesitant to write their own posts. Because I would say that one of the things I think people should do, you got to stay top of mind. It's your job as a job seeker to stay top of mind. So if they're willing to write their own posts, put their thought leadership out there, that's going to do wonders for them because now you're top of mind and I get to see the types of things that you're talking about. And if it's the things that I'm interested in my company and for my role, I'm going to reach out to you as people engage with your post. So I think that's a little bit more proactive. So I think the thing is to think about when you're meeting people on LinkedIn, it's like meeting them in person. What are the conversations that you would have with somebody in person and engage in those conversations? And then I also think people should think about it in terms of Cleve McCleary, who's a former Marine, used to say FIDO. Forget it and drive on. So that's kind of my approach as a recruiter. It was like, I've got thousands of people to reach out to. If one doesn't work out, I can just move on. So I think the job seeker needs to take the same approach, right? There's lots of opportunities. Find the ones that they're interested in. If they're being proactive, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody because if they say no, it's like, okay, forget it and drive on. You got other people to contact. So that's just the mindset that I want our job seekers to be in, very proactive.
I love that. Yes. Yeah. And one of actually, it was my financial advisor at one point. He said his boss told him, go play in traffic, Mark. The only way you'll ever get any business is to play in traffic, which, I wouldn't tell my kids. But what he meant was that if you're sitting in your office, nothing's going to happen. And as a job seeker, if you're sitting there and waiting for someone to come to your profile, it's not going to happen. Get out there and play in traffic, comment on some posts, engage with people, comment on other comments, whatever is get you in the game, get you in the conversation so that you can get found because that will increase your visibility, but it's really more about giving yourself an opportunity to meet someone that you might want to maintain a relationship with, that then could become that referral resource or that, colleague that you have for the length of your career. So that's what we're looking for. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much. And I'm excited. So Kimberly is going to be presenting at our symposium. So the Career Thought Leader Symposium happening in April of 2025. And registration has been open, but the first deadline, December 6th, is the price is going to go up after December 6th. So if you're interested in joining us, I'd recommend that you check out the link. I'll post it in the comments here. And we'd love to have you at the symposium, April 2025. And Kimberly, I always love to hear you talk and the great perspective that you bring from all of your background. So thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And I love that, Marie, play in traffic. I love that.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Karen and Ann. It was great to see you today. And if you're watching the replay, drop a hashtag replay and make sure you subscribe on YouTube, because we'll be doing some more videos. And we'll see you hopefully virtually, but I'd love to see you in person at the symposium in April. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.